Today's guest is Karen Sammer. She is an amazing woman, and I am so privileged to have her here with us today, and you're going to love what she has to say. Karen, let me tell you a little bit about Karen. She's a national board certified health and wellness coach, a certified nutritional consultant, and she helps people reverse prediabetes and achieve their healthy weight. After losing 135 pounds herself and reversing her own prediabetes, Karen founded Your Power, Your Health, nutrition and health coaching. Leveraging years of training in wellness and holistic nutrition, her signature crowd out the bad method helps clients conquer cravings, lose weight, and avoid medication. Oh my goodness, do we need Karen? Speaker, Karen is also the author of the Plant Powered Plates Cookbook. She guides those facing obesity and prediabetes and medication dependence towards sustainable lifestyle and balance with freedom. I am really grateful that you're here today, Karen, and I cannot wait for us to dig in and learn what you have to bring us today. So before I get into details of what you do, I'm really curious as to tell me about your background. Like, how did you get here? You know, we all have this story that brings us to this place, and I cannot wait for you to share that.
Well, thank you, Peggy, and thanks for that lovely introduction. So as you said, I'm a board certified health and wellness coach and a certified nutritional consultant. And the way I came here is I was, in 2009, was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer. And at the same time, I was pre-diabetic, but I was ignoring that. I wasn't doing anything about the pre-diabetes, the high blood pressure, the high cholesterol, all the things that were going on in my body. And it wasn't until the cancer hit that I finally got my attention. So I went through the conventional treatment of a year's worth of treatment for the cancer, chemo, radiation, and surgery. And I vowed that I was never going to deal with that again. And so I decided to take my health into my own hands. And in the process of doing that, I lost 135 pounds. I not only reversed the prediabetes, but all the other numbers came down as well. And I also mitigated my risk of recurrence because the type of cancer I had a pretty high recurrence rate. So I was able to bring that risk down as much as anybody can. There's always whatever. But so I decided that when I did that, it was, first of all, I was kind of reflecting on how really well I felt. And I never realized how sick I felt before until I felt amazing. I felt better than I had 30 years prior. I'd gotten all my energy back. I had no aches and pains. And I had complete control over what I ate. And there was nothing turned my head. Nothing could make me crave it. I had no cravings left because of the way I took care of things. And so I decided that I wanted to help other people do the same thing. And so I got the training to become a health coach, certified holistic health coach, and then certified nutritional consultant. So continued my education, and then I decided to really go all in and become a board certified health and wellness coach by taking the exam.
Oh my gosh, Karen! Wow, what a story! I mean, all that you went through, all these frightening experiences. And to think you had so many multiple, we call them comorbidities, but other things happening to you, happening to your health all at the same time. And by doing what you were doing and you're still doing, you were able to reverse everything. And I cannot wait for the feedback on hearing what you have to say some more. It's really, really touching. So tell me, what is it that you focus on now and how, what kind of people come to you at this point?
So in my studies and in going through just my research and all the things that I just absorb ravenously
Mhm.
because I love it. It's come to my attention, and I know this is no surprise to you, Peggy, because of your background, that diabetes is an epidemic. It's an absolute epidemic in our society. It is actually estimated that within 10 years, 50% of the population will either be
Mm.
pre-diabetic or diabetic. And most of us won't even know it. We won't know, many of the people are walking around who are full on diabetic don't even realize that that is the case until
Oh
something
my.
catastrophic happens.
That
And
is true. That
yeah,
is true. And I found it with many patients that I took care of.
yeah, I'm sure you did. I'm sure it's just, but you probably see it in the hospital setting over and over and over again. And
Yes.
the sad fact is that much of it is preventable. And a lot of it is because of the dietary choices that we make every single day, the lifestyle choices that we make every single day. And those choices can either take you down the road of diabetes or it can take you down the road of good health.
Hmm.
So I thought my attention would be well placed by putting it on people who are pre-diabetic because that is going to wreck our healthcare system. I mean, it's already in shambles, but that's just going to
Yeah.
make it worse. And it is a preventable condition that if you make a few changes, you can make remarkable progress in turning that around. And so most of my clients actually are women who are, you know, 40 plus. So they're either premenopausal or menopausal or postmenopausal. And that's a milestone, as you know, that's a milestone in our lives that changes a lot of things, including our ability to combat those types of conditions. Estrogen is a powerful tool. And when that starts to deplete, a lot of things can go badly for us if we don't take care of it.
Yes, I agree with you 1,000%. And most people do not realize even how our hormones work and what kind of impact it does have. And people might say, oh, they're going through menopause or oh, they're postmenopausal, when really their whole body is taking a hit. But it takes years to get through it. They think, oh, it's going to be a month and you're good. But it takes
Yeah.
years to get through that whole transition from perimenopause to postmenopause. And I love that you're addressing that group of people, really critical.
Well, I mean, it's a population of people who have been underserved and
Hmm.
and just don't really know where to turn sometimes. They get a lot of conflicting information in the media. It's what dietary program is the current rage? Should they follow this? Should they be keto? Should they be paleo? Should they do the commercial weight loss programs? Should they starve themselves for 40 days? There are so many different competing things that turn their head and they don't really understand what the impact of their body is going to be. So I try to help them to
Absolutely.
navigate that.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So how do you start when you're going to work with a client? What's your process as far as digging deep to find out really what's stopping them and what their diet is and how to get them to, I hate to say, buy into transitioning to a healthier way of life?
What I have found overwhelmingly with my clients, and this is what I address first, is that they are subjected to sometimes unrelenting cravings for certain foods. And they can go along, everybody knows, most people know how to lose weight, but
Hmm.
maintaining that weight loss is a different story.
That
And
is for
so,
sure.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what happens is, people go along and they power through as much as they can until they can't do that anymore. And then the cravings come raging back and take over their entire lives. And then they're back at square one or even worse. They're back higher than they were when they started. So what I help them to do is I guide them. So I am their guide. I'm not, I can't do it for them, but I can guide them to learn how to overcome the cravings, not just power through the cravings because willpower is a finite resource. We only have so much of it. And then when that shuts down, everything else comes flying back. So it's really about overcoming, making the cravings stop, making them go away. And there are certain things that in your life will trigger those cravings. And it's really addressing the issues in a way that does not feed you the foods that are, they're going to feed the cravings, but they're also going to exacerbate the cravings. Because once you start eating and going down that path, you need more and more. It's like a drug. It is a drug. Sugar is a drug. Refined carbohydrates are drugs. And it's about not feeding the beast and finding different ways to nourish yourself so that those cravings don't come back. And when I figured that out, when I was losing the weight, when I figured that out, I was able to eat intuitively, to feed my body in the way it needed to be fed. Because I didn't have all that other noise telling me to go eat the Oreos or whatever.
Yeah,
Other
yeah.
choices.
And yeah, I love the word intuitive because it sounds like you're listening to your body's needs.
Yeah,
You're paying attention to your fullness and hunger cues, right?
absolutely. And
Wonderful.
and just feeling nourished. That is an incredible feeling when you feel nourished, not just
Mm,
full, because you don't want to eat to complete fullness because that's, that just feels, full.
terrible.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's really about nourishing your body in the way that it will optimize its performance. And
Hmm.
you can sleep better, you'll have better energy, you'll have better clarity of thought, you'll be able to do the things that you never realized that you could do. When I lost the weight, I was able to actually, in the process of losing the weight, I started training for a 60-mile walk. I was in support of breast cancer awareness. And
Oh
so
my
I did the
goodness.
60-mile with a 3-day 60-mile walk, which by the way is not nothing when you're in your mid 50s. And so,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, but it was fun. It was a great experience. I probably won't do it again, but it was a great experience. But I was able to do it. Excuse me. I was able to do it without the aches and pains and the stiffness and that might have otherwise come. Excuse me, I got to take a drink.
Sure, take your time.
Oh my goodness, a little scratch. So I was able to do it without all of the aftermath. Yeah, I was
Hmm.
tired. I slept really well those nights, but it was really it was an amazing, energizing experience. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had not taken my health into my own hands and done the things that I thought I could do. Because when I was going through treatment, they told me not to lose weight. I was obese, and they told me not to lose weight. Fortunately, I
Why?
didn't listen to them.
Did they give you a reason why?
Well, because they want you to maintain what you have. They don't want you to starve. Not sure why. I mean, I certainly wasn't starving.
Right.
Fortunately or unfortunately, when I was going through treatment, I was rarely able to eat. That treatment really knocked
Mm.
me, just really knocked me out. I
Oh,
was
I'm
really able
sure.
to eat. There were very few things that I could even stomach. So,
Yeah.
so I lost. A lot of people gain weight when they're going through breast cancer. I lost 28 pounds during the breast cancer treatment, and then the rest of the weight came off afterwards when I was starting to feel better and able to exercise and able to really make food choices that were going to be beneficial to me because then I could eat a variety of foods that felt good in my body. And and really, so it's about killing the cravings, identifying the things that trigger you and
Hmm.
redirecting those triggers. So the mindset around
Hmm.
food and your relationship with food and your feelings about yourself being not being able to do this because you've never been able to do it before. It's really, identifying how to get rid of those limiting beliefs and making the lifestyle changes that are going to make it sustainable. Getting enough exercise, getting enough sleep, hydrating yourself appropriately, and all of the things that your body needs for optimal performance. And you don't have to be a star athlete. It's just really about making the choices in your life that will give you the best result that you can possibly get. And nobody's too old. Nobody's too old. Nobody's too far gone. Anybody can benefit from making these changes. And there's small incremental changes that I encourage people to make. It's not, you don't have to eat the whole elephant because that is the recipe for failure when you try to take on the entire project all at one time. You want to make small incremental changes over time because as you do that, think of it as a clock and each minute is a change. Well, eventually you're going to get to where you're turned around completely. And then you'll be able to look back and you'll, while it doesn't feel like you're making much progress, you look back from where you are to the beginning and you see how much progress you actually did make. And it's really cool to see people do that.
Oh, I
And
bet it is. I bet
yeah, I
it
love it.
is.
Yeah.
So if somebody, we talk about, and we just talked about, you mentioned it, sugar is a drug. I mean, those of us in healthcare know that. Um, but I mean, it's a very difficult habit to break.
Yes.
Because we use the word addiction. Um, and what's interesting is when you say addiction, that's a tough word because you can't, like alcohol is an addiction, but you can live without alcohol. Well, sugar is an addiction in the same way. You can live without sugar, processed sugar. You can get your sweet taste from other things to satisfy that particular need, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you get somebody started if they have to kind of work on that? That's a tough addiction, right? How do you get them started so they just don't go under? Yeah, I mean, it's just so overwhelming for people.
Right.
So, what's the starting point? Like,
Well, the first thing we do is we evaluate what they're currently eating. No
mhm.
judgment. Just let's talk about it. I don't care what it is. I just want to know where we're starting from. And so I have them journal what they've been eating, every single bite that goes into their mouth. I also provide some guidance around the foods that they are better off eating versus some others. I don't have a strict program that I have them follow. It's really
Right.
more about making your life choices because it's really about autonomy, right? They have to
Oh,
be able to live on
absolutely.
their own and they can't rely on me for the rest of their lives. I mean, it would be nice, but it gets expensive. And so they have to be able to make the right decisions on their own behalf. So it's really about identifying what they're eating, when they're eating it, what they're feeling like when they're eating it, and starting there. Because actually, I think that giving up sugar is probably far more difficult than giving up a drug. And I'm sure there are people that are going to argue with me about that. But you don't need heroin to live. You don't need alcohol to live. You don't need cigarettes to live. You do need food to live. So now you have to be able to eat food that is going to benefit you without putting you into a sugar spike and dip spiral. Just the whole blood sugar imbalance thing, because that's when you have those ups and downs, those spikes and those crashes. That's what makes you crave. And when you can balance out your sugar and regulate your blood sugar and make sure that it stays on an even keel, that's half the battle. And identifying the foods that will allow you to do that will make that job so much easier. So we talk about those things and we talk about what are their triggers, what is their drug of choice. I always call it that because it truly is a drug, as we said. Unfortunately, it's a legalized drug. I wouldn't say legitimate, but it's legal. It's a legal drug. The food companies have, I don't want to get you in trouble here, Peggy, but but the food companies have been able to manipulate the food to be addictive so that you keep coming back for more. Because how else would they stay in business if you weren't coming back for more and more?
And you are correct about that. And I think it's a well-known fact, so we're not going to get in any trouble. We all know that why do the children's Fruit Loops and they get sweeter and sweeter? Why? Because they want you to come back. And that's when it all starts, when you're young.
Yeah.
And oh, you hurt your leg, Johnny. Here's a cookie or here's a lollipop. So, we are taught at a very young age that a treat, especially if it's used as a reward when the kids are very little, that's a pretty tough thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you regarding when they're pre-diabetic, how do you work with the doctors? I mean, do you have any recommendations for your clients that work with you to make sure they're getting their sugars checked, or do you monitor ask them what their blood sugar is, or any of that come into play or not?
So I am not a medical professional, and
Okay.
I tell them, do not ever take yourself off a medication or
Mm-hmm.
anything like any. Do not ever go counter to what your doctor has recommended when you're working with me. What you can tell them when you're working with you have a medical professional, you let them know that you're working on losing the weight and limiting your sugar intake, so that they can teach you how to monitor your sugar, and they can monitor it for you. And if you're already on medication, make sure that they are monitoring the level of medication, because as your weight comes down, as your sugar intake comes down, you do have to have that modified. You have to have those levels modified.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really keeping an eye on what's happening. I've heard from many clients when they come to me that their doctor, sometimes they want to put them on medication before they develop diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
When they're starting to trend with sugar, their blood sugar starting to trend up, their A1C and their fasting glucose.
Mm-hmm.
And I suggest to them that they ask their doctor for a delay of that. I say,
Mm-hmm.
like, before you start the medication, ask him if you can have 3 months to make some changes. Very often the doctors have said, I don't think you're going to be able to do it, so you'll be back here in 3 months on medication, or something to that effect. So right now you're setting the person up.
How encouraging.
Yes, exactly. You're setting the person up for failure. And so in that case, when a doctor says something like that to you, my strong recommendation is find another doctor, because you want somebody who's going to be in your corner, not somebody who's going to bring negative energy to your efforts to better things for yourself, so that you don't have to end up on medication. But the doctors are trained. The medical schools are run by the pharma companies. Excuse me. The pharma companies go into the medical schools and they train the doctors how to prescribe their drugs. They are not trained in nutrition. There's very little nutritional education in the medical schools. So unless you're a functional medicine doc who has taken additional or classes in nutrition, chances are you know very little about it, but you know how to write a prescription.
Yeah, that is very true. I know that from my over 4 decades working in the medical institutions, that doctors in training get what, 7 credits of nutrition. What are you going to learn in that?
Exactly.
You know, like really,
Yeah,
or 7 credit hours.
What is that one? So that's two classes, maybe?
It's like, you look at, and it may be different now, but when last time I looked it up, it was so nominal, and things hopefully have changed since I saw that number years ago. But it always kind of flabbergasted me that there wasn't more attention to nutrition. For instance, supplementation. If you tell doctors you're on, today it's better. They actually are in favor of you having a good multivitamin or magnesium, whatever. But they don't really. I shouldn't. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because many of the doctors, younger doctors today, are more in tune with the nutrition as far as supplements. But I think overall, they don't have the depth of education in nutrition. So I agree with you 100%.
And the ironic thing is that Hippocrates was the father of modern medicine. One of his mantras was, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
Yes.
Right? So he knew from all those hundreds of years ago that our food can either be poison or medicine. Depending on what you're eating, you can either medicate yourself with it or poison yourself with it. And
Absolutely.
A lot of our society, a lot of the food choices that we have are actually slow poison for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a shame. And I could go into food deserts. There are poor neighborhoods, less advantaged neighborhoods that have nothing but junk food providers. They don't have good supermarkets or reasonably priced food that's nutritious. It's all the cheap junk food, the cheap fast food, that stuff, and it's it's unfortunate, but that's where you find the highest rates of obesity, of diabetes, of heart disease, of cancer. These underserved populations, they don't have the good medical treatment, and by the way, you're feeding them all this junk that's just going to feed these illnesses.
Oh, sure, sure. I hear that a lot from clients I serve. The clients I serve don't normally have the constraints to get the good food, but I will say some of them just don't want to pay for organic. They just say, no, no, no. This is fine. I'm good with that. I don't have to switch to organic. So it is interesting how much worse it is for those impoverished areas. So much worse.
Absolutely, and they really don't, and they're not given any opportunities for improvement. And unfortunately, when you do that, you're also affecting the education system, right? Because you're sending kids to school without food, or with starting out with a sugary cereal in the morning. What is their chance of absorbing any of the information that they're given in the school? Their brains are so wired because of the sugar that they've taken in, that they can't possibly concentrate. And that's why I think that's a lot of it, is why a lot of the ADHD that we have in this younger generation, between this and electronics and no exercise and oh my gosh.
It is interesting when you bring up ADHD, the prevalence you see today as compared to even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's showing up a lot more, and I don't know if it's because maybe they're testing more, or maybe they are labeling people as that without really doing a better investigation on their diet and everything else, right? So it's interesting you brought that up. So what I would like to know is what's the three biggest things you'd like to share with our listeners? And then we're going to talk about some nice gift you have for them. But let's talk about your three. I want them to have three takeaways.
Okay, I can give them at least three takeaways. I'm happy to do that. So when I work with my clients, as I said before, we identify the way they're eating now, and we talk about making small changes to that. So you want to evaluate what you're eating, and even the people who are the least informed have a fair idea of where their problem foods are.
Mm-hmm.
And so try to eliminate, if you're drinking 3 sodas a day, try to drink one, or
Mm-hmm.
try to drink, bring it down, eliminate one and just drink 2, and replace the third one with water, and
Mm-hmm.
increase your water intake. So one of the things that I find with my clients is they're not consuming enough water, and they're very dehydrated. And we are dehydrated unless we are making an effort to hydrate ourselves. You wake up in the morning, you're dehydrated. I don't care how much you drank the day before, but all night long you're losing water, whether it's through breathing, or through sweating, through whatever it is. You wake up dehydrated. The first thing you should do is drink a glass of water. Room temperature water, 8 ounces at least. So hydrate yourself fully. Half your body weight in ounces of water is how much you should be consuming a day. Because a lot of times hunger masquerades as thirst. I'm sorry, the other way around. Thirst masquerades as hunger. So
Yes.
when you're feeling a craving come on, drink a glass of water and see if that doesn't help you. So stay fully hydrated. Make sure you get plenty of sleep. Because your sleep, if you don't get 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep every night, then your hunger hormones are all out of balance. Your ghrelin and your leptin are not. Your ghrelin is on overdrive. That's your hunger hormone, and your leptin is your satiety hormone. Your ghrelin is on overdrive. Your leptin goes to sleep, and it gets all whacked out. Everything gets out of balance, so that you feel you can't be satisfied. Often, you'll eat all kinds of nutritionally devoid food, so food that is just empty calories, and you'll feel full and bloated, but you won't feel nourished, and you'll keep wanting to go back for more because then your sugar is going all over the place. So getting plenty of sleep will help you to balance those hormones, so that then you are able to make better choices to eat of the food that you're eating. And then the third thing is move your body. Just move your body. You don't have to be a gym rat. You don't have to be a marathoner. You just have to get out and take a walk. And if you're unable to take a walk for whatever physical uh, reason that you can't, then do something else to move your body. You can do chair yoga. You can do arm exercises. Just move your arms around. Just move your body so that you're getting your blood flow. Your lymphatic fluid is flowing through your body. Your blood is flowing through your body. You're getting your heart rate up a little bit so that you're making yourself exercise a little bit to keep your heart strong. And not only does that help you to stay physically strong, it also helps to abate cravings. So if you find yourself feeling a craving coming on, and you have the ability to do this, to just go out and take a walk, just take a walk up and down your driveway or take a walk up and down your street. Just do, just 10 minutes of walking could very, very well help you to overcome that craving. So
Oh, that's
hydration,
awesome.
sleep, movement. And I don't want to call it exercise because it doesn't have to be exercise because that scares people.
Yeah, the exercise is always a scary word for most people. They're like, because of their perception of what that means. No, we are not using barbells today. But
But and people feel like they don't have time. You don't have to have 2 hours. No, just take a 10-minute walk a couple of times a day.
Or go up and down in the rain, go up and down your stairs a few times if you have stairs.
Yes, exactly.
It's all sorts of things. But what's interesting, I want to add, when you were talking about the ghrelin and leptin, having worked night shifts, 12-hour night shifts, and that was one thing I would not do is going to the nurse's lounge because it was all sugar. Because most people will use sugar to wake them up and keep them going. And I never did the statistics of weight gain for night workers, but I would bet it's very significant because that's a tough one for them. And then what happens to their blood sugars during the day? Yikes.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Night workers never get, I don't think they ever get like quality sleep.
No.
Because you're sleeping against the clock.
Yeah.
And so you're sleeping in the daylight. You're sleeping when your body wants to be up and awake. And daytime gets in the way of your actual sleep. So it's very
it is hard. It is hard. But now I know you have promised a little gift for all our listeners. Would you like to tell them a little bit more about that?
I absolutely would. I would like to offer everyone a free consultation. And that means that you meet with me for an hour. And this is a real coaching session. It's really, we look at where you are. We look at where you want to be. And I give you some action steps that will get you from point A to point B. And it'll get you started on your healthy journey. And if you feel like you would like to work with me, that's great. We can work that out. We can figure out what works best for you because I have a couple of different programs that I do. And if not, that's fine. At least you'll have some action steps to get you started. So it's a no-lose situation. You really get some good information. Because as you can see, I can talk a lot. So I will provide.
Well, I think it's a very generous offer, and I would like to thank you very much. Now, I want to make sure all the listeners know Karen's information will be in the show notes, so you'll have everything you need to connect with her. And I want to thank you again for your time, your absolute wonderful wisdom, learning all about prediabetes and weight loss. That's a big deal. And just to think of, reaching out to those people that are on the edge of full-blown diabetes and helping them sort of mitigate that is fabulous. So thank you. And I appreciate your time here.
Thank you so much, Peggy. I appreciate the opportunity.